bother about germs. All you have to do is spray the sanitizer on the toilet seat, wait for a few seconds, and then you can use it. Now, this also serves as an air freshener, giving you a nice fragrance after spraying. Now, for wholesale purposes, do contact all Panacea branches here in Accra, Tema, and Kumasi. For retail purposes, all Shell Mart, supermarkets, Max Mart branches. I've got two numbers that you can reach us on: 027 999 455, or give us a call, or give them a call on 0593 873391. Time check. It is some 8 minutes to the top of the hour. This is 3FM Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. This morning we started the conversation about the issue concerning suicide attempts. Now, suicide attempts have finally been decriminalized. Now, Parliament yesterday amended the Criminal Act to exclude suicide or attempted suicide. Henceforth, anyone who attempts suicide shall be conclusively considered to have severe mental disorder, thus shall be provided with mental health care rather than punishing them by putting them behind bars. Until the passing of this act, a person who attempts to commit suicide commits a misdemeanor under the Criminal Offences Acts of Ghana. We're also asking you to weigh in on the conversation. We do have a poll up on our socials, so do get involved. Let us know what you make of this. We're joined on the telephone by Dr. Seto, and she is not a stranger to the show, not a stranger to GMB alum. She'll be speaking to us about the mental side of things. Dr. Seto, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good to hear your voice this morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you too?
I'm also doing very well. What do you make of this amendment to the laws that concern attempted suicide? I'm sure for someone in your position, it comes as great news.
Yes, it is. I'm actually really excited. I think this news is actually long overdue. Like I always say, mental health issues are things that are not put as priorities, but they are actually priorities because they affect our day-to-day life. And it's actually really exciting news to know that people are seeing the importance of mental health on a daily basis. Now, a person who commits suicide is definitely not in a stable state, because I mean, it's painful to even catch yourself to think about even taking your life, because I mean, the organs will go through so many different changes before you pass away. I mean, it's not an easy thing to take your own life. So somebody who attempts it should be given intensive psychological care, and then we really need to find out what the triggers are, because why would a person want to take their own life? There are different reasons. It could be schizophrenia from genetic reasons, or even certain things are actually triggering them. So apart from giving them psychological help to help them deal with the issues that may be triggering them, we need to set a probe to see if those triggers can be removed.
Okay, now when it comes to providing assistance and psychological help to persons who are afflicted with mental health disorders, what do you make in your assessment of the capability or our capabilities as a country to address those issues and also help people who need the help?
So I always say the journey of 100 miles begins with one step, and no step is too small. Now, I think that mental health societies that are available here are doing a great job in their own capacity as they can to actually push the awareness of mental health and to help the people who have already gone through a bit of trauma. I think it's an everyday thing, and it's not just left to the societies that are dealing with mental health, but as we create awareness, it's everybody's duty to actually help to prevent more mental health disorders and more mental health crises. So, yeah, as a country, I don't think we are there yet. I mean, technology improves every day, so we can do better. But then the little that we are doing by giving each other support on a daily basis, and the few drugs that are available for people who already have disorders are a step in the right direction. Now, I think that more policies can be made to protect people with mental health disorders and protect the human rights of everybody and prevent stress-related issues that could temporarily lead into mental health crisis.
Now, you're an ardent mental health advocate, and I think the last time we connected, sometime last year or the year before, you had some plans put in place to also help with the cause of addressing mental health in Ghana. How is that progressing?
Oh, so far, so good. I think that between last year and now, the awareness on mental health has been very, very great. So far, so good. They have actually succeeded in making people aware that mental health is the thing that is there. We haven't stopped. We are continuing to see how we can affect policies both on national level and even at our level on the hospital basis as well. So, yes, so far, so good. The awareness campaign still goes on. And, of course, research as well, reading every day to improve ourselves.
Now, Doc, before I let you go, is it true that 1 in 5 Ghanaians is suffering from some type of mental disorder? Are the stats right?
So, yes, stats are just an estimation of what may be happening. Yes, that is true. Not suffering from a mental disorder per se, but could be going through a mental health crisis. Now, we should bear in mind that some of these cases have gone undiagnosed. So, yes, these are stats that are almost accurate.
Now, also, when we talk about budgetary constraints, we know that ideally countries should be allocating 15% of their health resources to mental health. And we're doing far, far, far below that amount. And as a consequence, we don't have the proper infrastructure, the mental health personnel, practitioners who can help address this. So would you say that it's a matter of a priority, a matter of, in fact, even an emergency for government to beef up the monies provided to this sector?
Yes, it is. And I believe that people prioritize what they understand. People prioritize what they know about. If they don't have the information, then they don't see why it is important. So it is up to us advocates, it's up to us health workers to actually push the message of mental health, both to the people in the grassroots and also to the people in government who have the ability to affect and influence these changes.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Seto. I know you're rushing off to another engagement, but thank you for speaking with us. And thank you for your time. We'll connect, I'm sure, later on as we progress and see what updates there are in this sector.
Yes, please. All right. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your time this morning. GMB 2021 alum, Dr. Seto Abra-Nogbe, mental health advocate, speaking to us there, sharing her opinions on the latest amendment to the Criminal Act, which is to exclude attempted suicide and offer help, if you will, to those who are going through mental health crisis. As Doc says, 1 in 5 Ghanaians is going through a mental health crisis, and a lot of this goes undiagnosed. This morning we attempted to get into the issues, dissect what we think could be possible causes. William, you spoke about community, a lack of community, also leaving people lonely, vulnerable. But I also wanted to talk about sometimes the religious aspect of it as well. Sometimes we believe that religion will cure some of these things. And yes, you can buttress the psychological help with prayers, but for some, the first call should be to a mental health expert so you can get the best care, the best help for the brain. Because scientists will tell you that the studies have been conducted where you take the brain, or you look at the brain of a healthy individual, and by healthy, somebody who is also of sound mind, and you put that against somebody who's going through some type of crisis or diagnosed mental health disorder, schizophrenia, and so on and so forth, and there are visible differences. So it's not a case of, oh, I just feel unwell, or I feel out of sorts. It is the case that you are unwell, you are out of sorts. Scientists will tell you this is a real condition. And as William said this morning, you break your arm, you go to the hospital, you have malaria, you go to the hospital. Same thing if there's a problem with the head, with the brain chemistry, there are experts who deal with that. It is an illness.
You mentioned the religious aspects, and I think in Ghana and if you like in Africa, we tend to go to church or seek religious help instead of, if you like, medical or psychiatric help, because a lot of people think that mental health is a result of some witchcraft or some evil machination. So they would rather go and seek spiritual help rather than, if you like, medical help. And it's quite rampant. That's why people, anytime something happens to somebody, the first thing that maybe the family or members of the family will think about is that somebody is somewhere, using some magic or some juju or some witchcraft on the individual who's suffering from mental health. So that is also something, but that is not to say it does not exist. Some of these things, you may not believe them, but they exist. Some believe in them and so on and so forth. So that cannot be, put aside. So when the person believes that it is juju, it is magic, it is witchcraft, it is whatever it is, and so they go to church, that is where the state can come in and regulate how the churches, handle some of these individuals. But then the question is, can the state regulate what the churches do in terms of spirituality? Because the state may not be able to, if you like, legislate how, spiritual things are done. So that if the pastor believes that putting some ash on your forehead or putting some powder on your face or something, how does that sit with human rights? Because human rights issues may come in, but then the constitution is the ultimate law of the land. So at the end of the day, we have a very serious issue of people getting chained, as I said. Some people are giving some concoctions and so on and so forth. So it's a very tricky area when you want to talk about the human right of the sick person and then the spiritual, if you like, the religious rights of those who indulge in those things. So that's one aspect of it. Now, when it comes to the society, I've said earlier that as a country, we've not taken mental health seriously because we don't believe that it's part of the health package. People think that if you look good, just looking good means that you are healthy. But there are people who are looking good and you are not healthy at all mentally.
Correct.
Or if you like, psychologically. There's so much stress. People are losing their jobs. Even I have done for my BA, I did a research at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. We're looking at stress among nurses. And even the nurses who are supposed to look after us, how much stress we take them through, doing their work. Do they have what it takes to deliver the service that we're asking them to do? So much stress. We talk about our military, we talk about our police officers, we talk about even the workplace. Where you work, who is interested in your mental health or how you are feeling psychologically on a daily basis? It is when you are not looking good on the face that somebody will say, look, this man is not looking good. You are sneezing, you are coughing, so they'll ask you to go home.
Right.
But if you come to work, they know you to be a very bubbly person. You are sitting quietly. Hardly would anybody come and ask what you're doing. So as leaders in the office space, I think it's also important that we look beyond how people look to also see if we can engage them and find out how they feel. If they have some small problems that we can help solve. People are having accommodation issues, very tight in Accra, very expensive.
Yeah.
People are having,
relationship issues.
Relationship issues. And these are things that people commit suicide just because of what we call broken hearts.
Yeah.
So these are things that in the family, in the office, at church, we should be taking seriously. So the mental health conversation shouldn't just be around, if you like, mental health practitioners such as doctors and psychologists. The family, the church, workplace, society in general should get involved. Now we're looking at attempted suicide and it being a crime.
Yeah.
You throw the person in jail. Our jails are already choked, and the records are there that our mental health situation, even in the prisons, are that high.
That's right.
If you look at the diseases or the ailments that take prisons, hit our prisons. We have HIV/AIDS. We have mental health and so on and so forth. And you are going to put somebody who is already suffering some psychological issues in the prison. So it's a good call for them to have, scrapped that law. But as I'm saying, if we want to discuss mental health, it is not just a formal space that's going to have some seminars.
Absolutely.
And so on and so forth. But everybody must be encouraged. Even in the studio, when you come in the morning, just checking on everybody, just talk. Sometimes just saying it and hearing something, just one word, will just make you calm down and take a decision rather than taking your life.
I also want to speak to the language that we use, even in the news space. You pick up, I haven't seen it in a while, but sometimes you pick up the dailies, they say mad woman on rampage, mad man on rampage. Even that language I find so problematic because it's very throwaway language. A mad woman, a madman. No, we are, each and every one of us is not that far removed from having a psychological issue. Take, for example, a diagnosis of bipolar disorder. From the research that I've done, the persons living with bipolar I've engaged with the mental health experts I've engaged with, it's the type of condition that will manifest sometimes late teens, for the majority of those afflicted with it, late teens into your early 20s. So you could be young, you have no idea that at 22 or so, you will now start to show symptoms because the illness has started to kick in. At any point in time, you could face a serious life crisis that can alter the brain chemistry. We're told that trauma has a very big effect on the brain chemistry, on your psychology. We talk about relationships, the demise of a relationship, the death of a loved one, of a family member, that sends so many people spiraling. So I think even the language surrounding how we talk about mental health issues, this guy, madman, madwoman, we have to find better ways to talk about those afflicted, talk about the issues.
Yes, talking about words, it's not just the fact that the person who is already suffering is described as mad, but even normal conversations, somebody comes to the office, hey, why you are looking so fat? Hey, why is your stomach looking so big? Why have you lost so much weight? You know, and you know, why are you smelling like that? They tell you in your face. And some of these things can have negative effects on, and if it continues, then it builds up in your mind, and you feel low, you feel bad around people, then you begin to withdraw. And once you do something that is not accepted in the society, then people begin to think that you have some psychological or mental problems. So if we are communicating with people in the office, you are working with somebody, the person is trying to do his best or her best. As a leader, how do you encourage such a person without putting the person down? So that even in the church, a young person gets pregnant, a young girl gets pregnant, instead of the church coming to support the girl, taking her through counseling, and even then they would rather ask the girl not to come to church. Some churches do that. You know, when you commit a so-called offense, they judge you. And
in fact, sometimes they'll use some very embarrassing tactics. So if you were part of the choir, they will tell you to leave. If you were somebody who used to sit at a certain point, they tell you to sit at the back. Everybody now knows your situation.
But I thought the church was for sinners and not for righteous people. So if I'm a sinner and who is the choir master, who is the elder, who is the pastor to judge me? You know, said I've gotten pregnant, and so the church has already judged me and put me. You are even lucky if they give you a space to sit in the church. They'll ask you to stay away. The same thing is happening in schools where young girls I'm not encouraging young girls to go out of their way to have to get pregnant and engage in what they're not supposed to. But when it happens, they are human beings. How do we treat them? They get pregnant, and some schools will ask you not to come to school. They'll even sack you from the school for getting pregnant.
Sometimes they'll bring you up. When I was in school, you do something wrong. Sometimes those that have sticky fingers, you know, those that steal, they'll bring you up in front of the morning assembly, in front of everybody.
You know,
the lasting psychological effects, we don't even think about that.
And these are things that show up when they grow up, because the psychological thing builds up from childhood, and it shows. And some of them are even genetic, so you don't know what is happening in the individual's family. We also have pupils who go to school, and when they sleep, they wet their beds.
That's right.
Even in the secondary schools. Yes, secondary schools. SSS. I'm not talking about GHS.
Or even primary.
Secondary schools. They are wetting their beds. How does the system, handle people like this? So if they are not handled properly, and they grew up, it has all kinds of. And the little trigger, they have mental health cases. So the conversation is very broad. And it's unfortunate that in our part of the world, everything that has to do with mental health is shrouded in mystery. Some look at, as I said earlier, some witchcraft, some result of some, dark something. It's just part of us.
Yeah.
Because it's like the heart. If the heart stops, you die. If the brain doesn't work well, literally you can't do anything. So every part of the body, like a car, is important. So we shouldn't just concentrate on the physical aspect and forget about the mental aspect. So it's good that this law has been scrapped, so that if somebody is feeling so low, they know that even if they attempt suicide, they will not, be jailed. But that is not also to encourage people to attempt suicide. If you have any problem, talk to the next person. And society must also be open to listen to people. Sometimes you walk out and you see a gentleman well dressed. He will approach you. Some of them are tricksters, but some of them too are genuine. They will approach you. Say, I came from Adabraka. I'm going to a shaman, and I don't have anything. Could you help me? Genuinely, you can help. But if we think that everybody on the streets who is doing that is a trickster, so we do not give them, then we are helping to just increase the stress of people who don't have money. And we are also talking about marriage. Society is putting too much pressure on people in respect of their marriages, especially the women.
We say society is pressuring them to either be married or stay married, even when they don't want to be.
Yes, marriage should not be a thing that, you go to the mental health facilities and we have a lot of women who are there because their marriages have gone wrong. Why would you? Because marriage is not a joke. You don't just enter into marriage, because there are two different people with two different backgrounds, two different mentalities, two different visions, two different orientations coming together. So there are definitely going to be, stressful situations here and there. But where we literally force people into marriages, it's like you are forcing me to go to the military. It's like forcing me to go to be a teacher. And these are things that our parents too should take note. You shouldn't force our children into spaces, because when they get there, their mental well-being will be challenged.
So I like that, even on the educational front. So you have a young son or daughter that maybe is interested in drumming or the creative arts. You say by force you must be an engineer.
And he goes to work and he's so stressed.
Unhappy.
And you see, some of them are not well, mentally, but it doesn't get out of hand, so we don't see a crisis situation. But it impacts on their productivity. If the person is always anxious, the person is low in spirit, he doesn't come to work and give of his best. So at the end of the day, it's impacting, but you don't know. You think maybe the person is lazy. But there's something that is not working well upstairs, because every decision that he takes in respect of the work is taken from the mind. So if the mind is not sound, we have a challenge even with productivity.
And even in the school systems, we know that things like ADHD, autism, rife. But growing up in the Ghanaian school system, if somebody was a bit slower in learning or catching up, wabong, and then they come and read the results, this person is always last in class. The kids tag
they even lash you for coming last. How can you come to class at 7:30 a.m. with a cane and put 10 questions on the blackboard those days and said, look at the words they use, mental.
Already you have created an anxious
So I see
space.
The math teacher and I'm panicking. And such a person will not do well, and it will show in all areas of his life. Your back is marked with canes because of a certain mental exercise that you didn't. What kind of system is this?
And meanwhile, you are probably the most talented drummer we will ever see in this land. But we will never be able to explore, because we live in a system where if you are not towing the line and doing X, Y, Z, we don't regard you. So on that front as well, all across the board, when it comes to mental health, we are lax, we are uninformed, and sometimes we are not compassionate at all. Maybe a young child has autism, ADHD. It goes undiagnosed. All the teachers will say, this boy or this girl is a naughty boy, naughty girl. They spend the rest of their days in school gallivanting. They've been told that, you will never amount to anything. And teachers actually even tell you, as for you'll be useless in future, and so on and so forth. But
there's one thing that we also have to put on top of this topic: drugs.
That's right.
There's no way we can have this conversation without talking about drugs, because these are substances that attack the brain directly.
That's right.
The chemicals in the brain are distorted. The cortisol and all those things. Alcohol is a drug, of course. Weed, cocaine. Now there are a lot of dangerous drugs in the system.
Now they have a lot of synthetic drugs. You have Molly, ecstasy, MDMA, fentanyl, and it alters the brain chemistry.
Rash and you see, I don't know how people see these things. But some of them, I knew a gentleman who was smoking, and I was talking to him and said, look, I started smoking even before your father was born.
Hey.
And this man lived to like 83 years before he died. That tells you that there are some people whose systems can take those things. So you look at them and you touch it. Some people, as soon as they touch it, they are off.
Exactly.
That's
so you might think that, in a group of friends, we're all doing this, but your brain chemistry could be more prone. It's different to illness.
You see, when you take those things, they increase some chemicals in the brain. But when that level of chemical in your system is so high, and you take, it just shoots up and off. Then you go off.
That's true.
You know, we have some brilliant individuals that we've lost to drugs in this country. We have Kwade, Kiki Jan, Whitney Houston, Amy Winehouse. I mean, the list is very long. Very long. In fact, too long. You know, so drugs, when it comes to mental health, is and my own friend Lord Kenya. You know, Lord Kenya was lucky.
He's lucky to be alive.
He says it himself.
Lucky to be alive.
He did, after taking a certain drug, he did something that he even hurt himself. There's a mark on him. You know, I mean, I can say this because he's my friend. Like, I mean, everybody knows that Lord Kenya is my friend. Lord Kenya was so up there. And to think that in the art space, people always know it's only in the art space that people are doing drugs.
The professional
Doctors
space.
are doing drugs.
Lawyers
are doing drugs. Pharmacists are doing drugs.
Politicians
Nurses are doing drugs. But everybody. So we shouldn't just having this conversation concentrate on because they are in our eyes. So if somebody is,
but also that's our bias, which also means that others who are involved in this
suffering.
Go unchecked because our attention is so focused on one sector.
Yeah.
But again, because the budget is low, there are no real helplines where young people can go to and call. It is a decision
we have to take, and we can take. It is not about money. If we want to do it, we will do it.
I'm sure there are jurisdictions that would love to partner with us and to support us.
You see, this free SHS thing is having its challenges. But for me, when I look at it, despite all the negativities, it motivates me.
Right.
Because it's not working, but they are pushing. The president is pushing. With all the challenges, you go, the children are suffering, the teachers are suffering, but still, they said, they are on it. That's how we should approach all national programs.
William, as for this analogy, I'm
not saying that's why I've made the foundation clear that the system is suffering.
Okay.
But we haven't abandoned it.
Is unwavering.
Exactly. So if we say we are going to tackle mental health, I suspect that we can do it because it takes a certain direction, it takes a certain commitment and a certain push. Because it's a part of our health package. You cannot claim to be healthy when you are having touches in your mind.
And ultimately, if we say we are looking for money, ultimately, if we're saying that we need to get out of this mess, the human resource at this point in time has to be more fortified than ever. All hands on deck. Yeah. Really, it's all interconnected. You have a workforce that is tired, apathetic, sad, going through mental crisis. What output are you expecting to then have a solid workforce, to then make money, to then improve your GDP? It's all interconnected. But as William will also always say, we don't put human beings at the center of anything.
Yeah, we don't. Because you see somebody shabbily dressed and you just think that the person has mental health. The person is just hungry and poor.
That's it.
We equate a destitute with the mental health patient. People are out there hungry. And recently I was reading a story about how people are picking soaps from hotels. I said it on the show.
Yeah.
There's a lot of food wastage in the system, despite our poverty as a country. People are throwing away food. We don't have, lunch kitchens.
What do you call the soup kitchens?
Soup kitchens.
Yeah.
Where you can go
and
genuinely take some small food. Look at the number of restaurants we have in the city.
Yeah.
We have children's park. We say, look, maybe this is an idea I have to also maybe pursue. We have an engagement with them, 3FM, so we have an engagement with them every after lunch. We'll come around and see not the leftovers per se, but what you haven't sold. Can you give us? We pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 packs from some restaurants, top bars and things around, and go and put them together. We'll get a lot.
William, I think this is a brilliant idea.
Yes, it's something that we can do.
And this is the type of creativity that doesn't involve.
Every Friday, if 3FM is putting that package together, for people to come and eat.
Yes.
It's not that if you are lazy, you can pass there. You should be genuinely...
Maybe that day you are lazy, you want to pass by. You can come. I think this is a brilliant...
If DJ Phil with his beard, with his fresh beard, if he comes
Listen, DJ Phil will tell you that on some days, he can't eat. That's what would have saved the stomach. So don't be deceived.
Some people
if you see me there, don't be deceived.
They dress better when they don't have money.
William, this one you are talking about, you gave us the apple already. You are just mentioning yourself. William, I think that's a brilliant idea. And this speaks to the creativity that doesn't involve huge sums of money.
No.
We have what we need amongst us.
The Ministry of Gender Social Protection. They're supposed to be doing something practical like this. So at the end of the day, Social Protection Ministry is saying every Friday, come to the children's park. Everybody, people will support the project.
Oh, yes.
Because there are restaurants that have food to give. Look, during Christmas, if you get your hamper, you have to check the expiry dates. Because a lot of shops have things that they don't sell. And when it's about 2, 3, 4, 5 days, then they put them together and they start sell. Go to those shops and let them give us milk, tea, coffee, chocolates. Let's put it together and prepare some breakfast for the needy. Right. It can happen. If you go to the mall, maybe they have about 10 days, 20 days, 15 days to, a point where they go and throw the stuff away. We put them together and then we give them some breakfast. We give them some lunch.
William, I think this is a brilliant idea. This is something that it's touching my heart this morning.
Because if you're hungry, you can go mad for some moments.
Oh, yes. And you speak to people and they say, you know what, this week I was really going through it. As soon as my pay dropped,
yes,
that feeling, that frustration.
Today is 29th.
Dissipated.
People are calculating the hours.
Ooh.
And
William.
And
William.
And the most dangerous date in the month is 15th. When the month turns like that,
this economy that we have, even on the 5th and the 6th, the Apaska,
you see, and this is why the government must not take the macroeconomic environment for a joke. Because when the fundamentals are weak, they also affect our mental faculties.
That's right.
Because if interest rate is so high, you can't borrow. If the base rate the policy rate is so high, the interest rate will shoot up. Exchange rate is shooting up. You are just pushing businessmen into stressful situation. You are putting workers who want to borrow some small money and rent a room into mental health situations. So that forget about these fancy projects and let's have a very good economic environment so that we can use our car to go and shop. Because everybody wants to look good, feel good, eat good.
Yes.
But if you can't borrow, you can't even borrow, then how? Then you see, it becomes so stifling that your mental health begins to fail. Because the month is ending, you owe your landlord some money. You have no idea how you are going to get the money. Your salary is not going to support you. The only place you have your eyes on is the banking sector. You go there and they are hitting you some huge interest rate. What are you going to do? So then the fights will begin in the families. The wife is on the neck of the husband. And people think these are all stressful situations.
Stressful.
It's nothing but stress.
And all of us can identify with this. You know what it feels like when you have impending bills and you have no idea how you are going to do that. And for the parents who have to look in the faces of their children when they have to make big concessions. I can't imagine what that is going to feel like, the kind of stress and pressures. And so when we're told that hypertension is on the rise.
Yes, it is.
Blood pressure on the rise. The types of diseases that we used to reserve for the old. Now the young are afflicted with it. We know we have a crisis on our hands. Time check. It is some 25 minutes to past the hour of 8. You're still live here on 3FM Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. We're discussing mental health issues following the decriminalization of attempted suicide. You too can get involved in the conversation. Join us on our socials. Shortly, we'll also open up the phone lines and talk some more about this issue. If we can get a legal perspective, we'll also add that to the conversation. We've talked about this a number of times, and shout out to lawyer Mam Hesse. He's joined us on this issue sometime last year to break down the issues. We'll talk more about it when we return.
3FM Sunrise. Come on.